Welcome, everybody, in this class about jazz articulation. And we're going to be very specific about articulation. We're also going to talk about swing feel, and I'm going to give you some ideas and exercises to develop your swing feel. So, first of all, why is it important to understand jazz articulation and to know how to articulate? Well, in every style of music, the notes are the same, the chords are the same, the scales, we use the same notes, um, maybe different scales, modes, and so on, but the notes are the same. What really makes a difference is the articulation and our rhythmic feel. So here we're going to talk about the swing feel. Also, articulation is going to be different whether we are at a slow tempo, medium tempo, fast tempo, and so on. It's going to impact your emotional content of the melody, the feeling of the melody. And we're going to see that today. And when you play by yourself, you have obviously much more freedom in terms of what articulation, how you want to articulate a melody. But as soon as you're playing with someone else, another musician, and even more if you're playing in a section, in a saxophone section, in a big band or whatever, well, here you must be really tight. You must agree on how to articulate a specific phrase that you play with for the saxophones, for instance. Okay, so that's very important to know that. Now, in the guide that I'm going to share with you today, it's nothing that I invented. I have, I don't have this pretension. It's just observation and knowledge, and I compiled everything in this guide. That information is to be taken, and you can obviously, it's not a rule of law. You're going to have counterexample, you can do other things, but it's really based on the knowledge and the common knowledge of this music and this culture. Okay, so before, and maybe to give a chance to a few more people to join us, I want to start by listening to not an entire track because it's a little long, but a couple of minutes of this track. Who knows Bobby Watson? Anybody here knows Bobby Watson? He's a great saxophone player, and for a little bit of a story, this album is one of my favorites also because my father went to New York when it was probably early 90s, so I was around 10 years old, and he went to the Village Vanguard in New York City to see the concert of Bobby Watson with that band, Bobby Watson and Horizon. And in that band, there was Frank Lacy, who I met about 10 or 15 years ago now in the Mingus Big Band. I work with the Mingus Big Band in New York. I even have the t-shirt today. It's a coincidence, but so, it was great to meet Frank. And I also got to meet fairly recently Victor Jones, the drummer of that album. So I thought that was a funny cycle and I met Victor Jones with the Mingus Big Band. That photo was taken at a gig in New York City at a club called Drome, where we played with the Mingus Big Band. And Victor Jones came to see us, and he actually sat in with us. He played with us, and it was really fun to meet Victor. And all right, so that's the story of this album. For me, it became one of my favorite albums when I heard it. So I was about 10 years old, and I was like blown away. Music is beautiful, super swinging, some beautiful ballads as well. And Bobby Watson has a beautiful alto sound. So let's listen to the head. And there's trumpet, alto, and so we're going to listen to the articulation. And I have the chart also for you today, and we're going to look at the chart a little later, but I want to start with some music. So let's have a quick listen. All right. It's very difficult for me to do that, but we need to stay on track with the time. Okay, so we'll come back to that song, but let's start with the complete jazz articulation. Okay, so in jazz you probably heard that before, that for the swing there's an underlying feeling of the eighth note triplet. We must feel the eighth note triplets, and the swing eighth notes, often we illustrate that with writing the eighth note triplets, and we will look at this together. But before going there, because sometimes it kind of complicates things a little more than necessary. So, jazz is still an oral tradition, meaning that we pass on the information orally, and especially at the beginning. And we sing. We have to sing because everything starts with you. And this, it's just a tool. This is a saxophone. You can play the trumpet, the guitar, whatever. This is just a tool. All right. The music comes from inside, and you have to hear and then vocalize it and sing it. If you hear it, you can sing it. If you can sing it, then you can play it. So it can be very helpful to use syllables. Now, those syllables, you may find slightly different syllables. What's going to be important? It's really the attack and the length of those sounds. Okay? And so the basic articulation, it's going to just say do da, do da. All right? And you can hear, you can feel that do, it's longer. Let's not talk about triplets or anything yet. Do da, do da. And there is a sense of bouncing, of rebound, do da, do da, do da. And if you just say that, you're already swinging. Do da, do da, do da, do da, do da. All right, you gotta have this bouncing quality to it. Do da, do da. Okay, it's just do longer, and down it's a little shorter, non-accented. Okay, so it's just 2/8 notes basically, a long note on the downbeat, short note on the upbeat. Do da. All right, just say do da, do da, do da, do da, and you're already swinging. So here, for instance, do da, do da, do da, do da. Okay, do you recognize the beginning of this melody? What melody is this? Very, very famous song. Do da, do da, do da, do da. Do you recognize this song? I see some people are writing. Very famous. When I'm going to tell you the answer, you'll be, yes, of course. Maybe if I play it. Yes, exactly, Simon. C Gem Blues. Excellent. Okay. All right. Now, when we have a stream of 8 notes, we're not going to say do da, do da, do da, do da, do, because do da, all right, it's also the attack of the sound, all right, which means that here with the instrument, for instance, the saxophone, I'm going to tongue those 2 notes, do da. Okay, and we don't want to play a stream of 8 notes, for instance, the major scale. Okay, we're going to say do da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo. All right. Now I want you to start feeling, play those eighth notes, but feeling the eighth note triplets. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and do da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo. Okay, so couple of exercises already to practice that, and I use the bebop major scale with the chromatic passing tone between 5 and 6. You can use other scales, but I'm going to demonstrate that here with that scale. I'm going to put the metronome with all the eighth note triplets. Not quite that fast. Let me go down like this. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and I'm going to play that scale. Do da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo. Okay, so really in triplets. All right, and do da hoo, the tonguing on the upbeat. So if you play the guitar or the piano, all right, you attack on the upbeat, except of course the first note. Okay, now let me tell you also right there that when we play, we forget about this, all this. Okay, but when I practice, especially when I wanted to develop my string field, or when I'm working with my students and I want to help them develop their string field, we practice a lot with the eighth note triplets. The drummers, if you listen to the drummers when they play at medium up tempo, they play a lot with the triplets, eighth note triplets. I usually take tracks by the Thelonious Monk Quartet when they play Blue Monk. Drummer, it's very clear how he plays a lot with the eighth note triplets. Okay, so I played with the metronome playing all the triplets. Now I'm going to take the third eighth note triplet out. And so now the metronome is going to do 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E. And I'm going to play do da hoo da hoo. All right. 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2, 3. All right. And I want to develop my ability to hear, to focus on this pulse. All right. Now, obviously, I could do the metronome playing 1 and the third. That's a little less interesting because that's what we're playing: 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E. But that could be an exercise. Now, what I like to do a lot, that's a little more advanced, because now the rhythmic pattern of my metronome is going to be much more complex. It's the 7-stroke clave. It's a 12/8 clave, all right, typical from all the African music, Afro-Cuban music. The 7-stroke clave, it goes like this. I'm gonna go down. Yeah. All right, then 7-stroke. So with the metronome, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1, 2. Okay, so that's a 7-stroke clave because there's 7 strokes. One. And this exercise comes from Danilo Perez. He practiced all the bebop head, the standards with that clave. And I took that from Helen Sung, from her masterclass, who got it from Danilo Perez. So now I'm using that a lot for me and with my students. So let's practice 1, 2, 3. Okay, so already we got a couple of ideas to practice with the metronome, with the triplets, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and, or just 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, or with the 7-stroke clave. And by the way, these metronome exercises. There's a lot of exercises like this in the class Rhythm Mastery, mostly based on doing rhythmic exercises with the hands and feet, but there's also some exercise with the instruments. Okay, so we have the basic articulation: do da, do da, do da, do da hoo da hoo da hoo da hoo. Now we're going to have all kinds of different accents and bending and things like this. For instance, most of the time when we're going to have a upbeat eighth note like this, if you want to accent a short note on the downbeat or upbeat, actually we're going to say that. Okay, and here I also wanted to use this little bend. We're going to say dwi. For instance, if I wanted to articulate the beginning of confirmation like this, da dwi dat, da dwi dat. All right. I don't have to do the dwi, but if I want to. All right. Da dwi dat. All right. Now, if I want to accentuate a long note, okay, again, either on the downbeat or upbeat, we're going to say day or da. All right. So it's going to have this day, this weight of day or da. It's long and there's a certain weight to it. Do da day do that. And you see, accent long note, accent short note. Do da day do that. Sorry, I was singing the wrong melody. Do da day do that. All right. If we want to play a short non-accent note, we're going to say dit. They do did do. Okay, accented long note. They do did do da da. They do dow. And to have a little fall, dow. We're going to say dow, dow. So that depending could be just with the embouchure, for instance, for the saxophone, or maybe even like a fall with the fingers. Okay. They do did do da da they do dow. All right. Now we play this little embellishment with like a lower and upper neighbor tones, and we're going to say dulia, dulia, and then we have ghost note. So the ghost notes, it's notes that are kind of played, but not exactly, not really. Sometimes it's on purpose, sometimes it's not, but most often it should be on purpose. Now, that technique is really specific to each instrument. For instance, on the saxophone, we have two techniques for playing a ghost note: putting the tongue below the reed, and so to stop the reed to vibrate, or put the tongue on the half of the reed. That's what I use. So for instance, I'm going to play one note, one sound, and I'm going to alternate open and ghosted, open, ghosted. You hear the difference? That's when I close half of the reed. All right, so for instance, here, do that, do that. Do that, you done, do that, with the accent on the last note. For the triplets, eighth note triplets, we can say doodle da or diddly. Also, sometimes depending on the phrase, it can be more convenient one or the other. For instance, confirmation again. Da dwee da da hoo da he da hoo da do you do did da da. Okay. Da dwee da da hoo da he da hoo da do you do did da da. All right. All right, now that's important. Quarter notes and eighth notes followed by rest are usually played short. Okay, I have a quarter note followed by a rest, it's played short. Quarter note followed by a rest, played short. For instance, confirmation. All right, that quarter note is going to be played short. Now's the time. All right, played short. Here is a rhythmic example. 1, 2, 3, 4. Did, da, who, do, did, dat, dow. Okay, a quarter note followed by a rest, it's short. Eighth notes followed by a rest, short. And when we have a series of quarter notes, usually on beat 1 and 3, they are going to be long, and on beat 2 and 4, they're usually going to be short. Do, did, do, did, do, did, do, did. And that's the time where we're going to come back to the track by Bobby Watson called Country Cornflakes. And we're going already to illustrate all those articulation. And we will see, for instance, this one, do, did, that's an articulation that we use. You can also do the opposite, but sometimes it's going to give like maybe a comical quality to it. For instance, in Fables of Faust, and we're going to listen to that too, it's the exact opposite. It's short on beat 1 and 3, long on beat 2 and 4. And that's a little funny. So first, let's have a look to the chart of Country Cornflakes with the track. Okay, so what do we have here? We have an accented long note and the upbeat day, and then we have quarter notes. And how do they play? On beat 1 and 3, they play them long. On beat 2 and 4, they play them short. That's exactly what we just talked about a minute ago. They did do did do dow, and a dow here. All right, so you see in this very first phrase we have already 1, 2, 3, 4 articulations. They do dee do dee. They did do dow. They did do dow. Did do da. Did do da. Did do da. All right, and that's very important because they play trumpet and saxophone together. So let's say here, if they were playing the sax would play it short, the trumpet would play long, that would sound sloppy. Okay, that wouldn't be nice. And then on the bridge, dow da dow do did, dow da dow do did, dow do did. All right, again. Do did. You see the quarter note on the fourth beat, and there's a rest after, so it's short. That's for sure. Da 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 do did da do did da do did da do did, and then the da here they played two short quarter notes. De da did do did do de da did do did. All right, so that's interesting here, the articulation. So you see how this is very clear here, the articulation. And on this chart, it's written, but most of the time, we have to admit that their articulation is it's never written. So, you have the common knowledge. And then again, if you play with someone, you have to sit down and make sure that you agree on the articulation. Okay, so now let's have a quick listen to the opposite of the outs, like this. This is usually what we're going to do. Do did do did do did do did do down. They did do did do did do did do. Okay, long on beat 1 and 3, short on beat 2 and 4. If we do the opposite, like Mingus love to do everything upside down. That's going to give it a funny effect. Let me. You hear? Okay, you heard how we play did do on beat 1 and 3. So it goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Did do da do did do. Okay, so you hear that it's almost like a circus thing, right? There's like a circus feeling to it. So that's important how you articulate, because if you want to give this circus quality to it, that's how you do it. But if you want to give this swinging quality to it, do did do did do did do did do down. That's how you articulate. All right. Any questions so far, or comments, thoughts about all of this while I bring this back? Okay, we were here. All right. Don't hesitate if you have comments or questions. Okay, so now if you have 2 eighth notes, we're usually going to have the last one, and especially if it's followed by a rest, the last one is going to be short. Do it, do it, do it. So for instance, if I were to come back to the first example of C Jam Blues, we would, rather than articulate it like this, do da, do da, do da, do da, we would articulate it like this: do it, do it, do it, do it. All right, those notes short. That's how we articulate C Jam Blues. All right, so I see a question. Why emphasis on the 7-note clave, trying to play along with that rhythm? Okay, the 7-note clave is based on the 12/8 pulse, on the triple pulse, what we call the triple pulse structure. So we feel the beat 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN, 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN. And the clave goes like this: 3, 4, So it's an interesting clave. The rhythm is interesting, and it's the basic clave to many folkloric songs from Africa, Afro-Cuban music. They're very based on that. So it's just a good exercise to feel these eighth note triplets with a different rhythmic points, like instead of having all the beats with the metronome or the 2 and 4, in jazz, we want to feel the 2 and 4, but we also want to feel these eighth note triplets. So it's pretty advanced. It's pretty difficult to practice with the 7-stroke clave, but it's very, very efficient. So first of all, I would start with the metronome playing the triplets. That would be great. And then when you start to feel really comfortable, then you can move on and experiment practice with the 7-stroke clave. All right. Okay, so we were here. Do it. Again, when we have a rest after, for instance, uh, ornithology. All right, this one is short. Again, if you play it long, well, if you're by yourself, that's okay. But listen to the versions. We always play it short. All right, and especially if you're with another musician, you gotta agree. And most of the time, we're going to play that short. Okay, now sometimes you're going to have quarter notes between two eighth notes, so on a beat. And here I wrote the articulation, with the little dat, which means short, but very often, again, in the charts, there's no articulation indicated. So it's common knowledge that this quarter note upbeat is going to be played short. All right, we're not going to play this long. All right, this is not cool. This one is short. Same thing in confirmation. All right, this quarter note here. Do, did, da. All right, let me make sure you see it. All right, this note is going to be short. Now, if you have quarter notes, all right, like this, written as 2/8 notes slurred, then you want it played long. For instance, a good melody that illustrates that is Stolen Moments. Do da hoo day, da hoo day, da hoo day, da hoo day. All right, these here we play them long. We're not playing them short. All right, but that's not like this. We could, if the composer had written just the half notes, yes. But now that we play it like this. All right, and even you can have a little accent. Do da hoo day, da hoo day, da hoo day, da hoo day. All right. Okay, upbeat long note after rest are usually accented. Again, Yardbird Street. 1, 2, 3, 4. Day, do, did. Day, do, did. All right, this one is going to be accented. Confirmation on the bridge. Day, did. All right, again, this one. Day, did. Or D with square. Again, a long upbeat note after rest is going to be accented. Here I took the example from the melodies of Duke. If you have a stream of 8th notes upbeat, where unless it's indicated otherwise, but this we're going to play them long. We wouldn't play short. Unless it was, that would be here, that would be specified. All right, so now let's look at actual bebop phrases. And here, this is a phrase I took from the solo of Charlie Parker on Yardbird Street. All right, so in a line of 8th notes or 16ths, we're going to look at a phrase in 16ths. We're going to accent the highest note in a wide lip that changes direction. So that sounds a little like, oh my God, I have to know when I play, when I improvise, if my melody is changing direction, the leap, where, no, obviously we don't think like this. Again, observe, listen. If you listen to that phrase, all right, this is what we observe. Every time we have a line that changes direction, here I have a line that goes down and then that goes up, right? Then we accentuate the highest note. Here we know that it's a note followed by a rest, accented. Now I have a melody that goes up and then goes down. We accentuate the highest note. It goes up, B, A sharp, C sharp. Here it goes up and then it goes down. We accentuate this. Again, when I play, I don't think about this. However, when I practiced, when I went in my developing years and still today, if I practice a transcription, I pay very close attention to that type of phrasing. And now this is just how the jazz articulation developed with the innovators. All right. And I overdo it here to try to be as clear as possible. All right. And if you look at the transcription and observe the articulation, you will find that this is how Charlie Parker will always articulate. For instance, here is a phrase, again, very famous phrase that he liked to play. He played it many times. Okay, so if you want to practice that phrase, first of all, do not try it first at the fast tempo. Try it very slow with your articulation. You see, it's going up, and then it's broken. It's going down. He accent this highest note. Going up, then down. He accents the highest note. Goes up, down, accent the highest note. You see, that's not me. I didn't invent that. I didn't create that rule. It's just the natural way that bebop players articulate. I'm just observing. Going up, down, accentuate the highest note. So if I play that slowly, okay, you can hear. Now, if I play that faster and faster, all right, and then you can go faster and faster with the correct articulation. But do not attempt to play fast first without the articulation, because this is not going to sound good. Another articulation I took from The Girl from Ipanema. If you have quarter note triplets, these are going to be played long, unless again indicated otherwise. But if there is no indication, then it's long. Sixteenths, 2/16, followed by a rest, are going to be short. Did it, do they. So for instance, here, I'm not sure if I took that from a melody, a solo, or if I just created that, but all right. Did it, do they. Did it, do they. We're going to say did it. Did it, do they. Or at a fast tempo, grooving high. Okay, did it, very short. Okay, now here's an interesting articulation. It's more like something like a march, like so blues march, or this type of things, like you can hear in the style of Art Blakey, the Benny Golson. If you have this rhythmic figure, a dotted eighth notes and sixteenths, it is counterintuitive, but this is usually going to be played short. De who, de dat, da who, de dat, da who, did. Okay, with an accent. Dat, da who, de dat, da who, de dat, da who, did. Dat, da who, da do, did. And when you have the opposite, sixteenths and dotted eighth notes, we're going to say dida. De who, da dida, do, did. Dida, do, da who, do, did. De who, da dida, do, did. Dida, do, da who, do, did. All right. So again, have fun with those exercises. Sing. All right, because you're gonna, maybe if you've never done it before, maybe you're going to make mistakes or think it sounds ridiculous, but you're going to get it and be more and more comfortable, and you're just going to swing like this. All right, it's not that complicated. You have to do it. De who, de dida, do, da dida, do, did. Dida, do, da who, do, did. And snap 2 and 4. De who, de dida, do, did. Dida, do, da who, do, did. Okay. All right. So here, my friends, this is a great series of exercises where we're going to practice a major scale. Okay, but you can do that with any other scale, with a rhythm and an articulation. Here I took the rhythm from Yardbird Suite. They do, da, da, who, that. All right, and I just played the major scale. So if I played a major scale like this with the metronome, and maybe let's just do this. They do, maybe a little slower. They do, da, da, da. All right, with the articulation. They do, da, da, da. Descending, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so first of all, I can practice this in all 12 keys. My major scales in all 12 keys with rhythm and articulation. Great way to practice your scales, your rhythm, and your articulation and your swing. So now if you do that with a metronome that plays the triplets or with a 7-stroke clave, now we start to really practice some cool stuff. Another great thing about this is that this major scale works perfectly on a 2-5-1. And I'm going to play that with a backing track. All right. On D minor, it's 7, 1, 2, then 7, 1, 2, 3, and 1 as an anticipation. So I can play that again. Now I'm practicing my major scale with rhythm, with articulation, and associated to a harmonic progression. Descending. Okay, so that's a great, like for instance, a good warm-up exercise for your practice session. Play those scales in all 12 keys. Now, not too fast. We're not looking for speed here. Okay, so medium tempo up to medium up, but not more than medium up tempo. We're looking for accuracy of the rhythm, swing feel, articulation. Now I can do this, this articulation taken from the Duke. Descending. Sorry. It went to another. I forgot to loop this. Descending. Okay, so you see how here I put the DAO articulation and here DIT, because you do whatever you want. It's free. You do it, but these are just exercise to practice your articulation. And here I'm practicing the bebop scale, major bebop scale with a chromatic passing tone between 5 and 6. And then on this 1-6-2-5, so rhythm that a rhythmic activity but spread over 4 bars. So for instance, let's do that with a metronome. All right, it's gonna go like this, maybe a little slower. Okay, do did do did da do the low the low do did da do the low the low. Okay, and you can loop this. 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. All right, and it's important here to have the tonguing here and there. Descending. Okay, and this worked on a 1-6-2-5 in a 4-bar frame. Another example would be this. A 1, 2, 3. All right, another exercise, just a major scale, but with rhythm and articulation over this progression. And the last one, did, da, do, did, dat, day, dow. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now this also, the first 4 lines will also work on a 1-6-2-5 progression. So now if I want to demonstrate that on a 1-6-2-5 progression, descending, now the second exercise, descending, okay, all right. Okay, now, any question about these exercises? Just the major scales on a 2-5-1 or 1-6-2-5, 1-6-2-5 over 4 bars. These are fantastic exercises, okay? Because you practice something that is not over challenging. Of course, depend on your level, but articulation, swing, and time, this is very, very important. Okay, so for instance, articulation on Satin Doll. Do da hoo da dit. Day do dit. Do da hoo da dit. Day do dit. Day do dit. Day did do. Okay, just based on the knowledge that we have, or on what I hear on the bridge. Day do da hoo da hoo. Day do da hoo da hoo dot. Mm, mm, mm. Day da hoo da hoo. Day da hoo da hoo dit dat dat dat. Okay, so you see how articulation is really important and helpful for you guys to develop your swing. Now, we're going to start the last leg of this session. A little bonus for you guys. Let's dive a little deeper into the swing feel. We mentioned before, and you've heard that before, that jazz is largely based on the eighth note triplet pulse, or the triple pulse, 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN. Okay, which means that when I have do da hoo da, Blue Monk, do da hoo da, I really feel do da hoo da, do da hoo da. And again, listen to Blue Monk by Thelonious Monk, and you really feel the eighth note triplets. And again, I remind you that this is for slow to medium up tempo. The faster the tempo goes, the straighter the eighth notes become. You can practice those eighth notes first by playing triplets. So the first eighth notes becomes 2 eighth note triplets. And you can articulate everything. Now we're going to slur this. Okay. Now I'm going to slur the first two and this. Do da hoo da. And now I'm swinging. If I do, okay, first of all, if you listen to drummers, that's what they do. They play with the eighth note triplets a lot. One of the basic exercises for drummers is this. This is a floor tone playing quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a cymbal playing ding, 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 ding. All right, the right cymbals. Ding, 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 ding. And this is a snare drums playing the eighth note triplets 2 and 3. So E end, E end, E end, E end, E end, E end, E end. Okay, that's one of the basic exercises for drummers. So you can see that it is based on those eighth note triplets. And you can see that the right cymbals is in sync with the eighth note triplets of the snare drums. Again, I don't invent that. I didn't invent this. This is a drummer exercise, a jazz drummer exercise. So you can see and hear that the cymbals is in sync with that eighth note triplets. Okay? So again, if we come back to Sad and Dull, playing that melody in triplets, that would be like this. 1, 2, 3. I think I made a little mistake here. Let me do that again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then I'm going to slur this. And then I'm going to slur this, and then it's going to become that. And here I'm really feeling, because I'm practicing this now, I'm really feeling those eighth note triplets. And again, you can practice this with the metronome playing the eighth note triplets, just a 1E, or with a 7-stroke clave. And then now you're going to become very, very strong rhythmically, and you're going to really develop your swing feel. Okay, my friends, so I think we've talked about everything I wanted to present today with a little extra thing about the swing eighth notes. Thank you for all the nice comments. It was great to see you and share all these ideas with you. So now go practice, listen. Okay, the most important is just you to listen, internalize, and sing. Okay, my friends, so I think that's it for now. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I hope it was helpful for you guys. I'll talk to you soon, and keep swinging. Bye-bye.